Finally, the virtual power shop is here, guys. Are you feeling stuck, insecure, or maybe second guessing some choices in life? Visit thevirtualpowershop.com to enroll in your 22 module course. It's self-paced and available on your terms. What's your well-being worth? Act now for a limited time offer. It's half off the regular $299 price. Your personalized journey is available for only $149. Step into a brighter, empowered future. Thevirtualpowershop.com. Get unstuck. I'm Alma Lee. I'm a psychotherapist and transformative lifestyle resiliency coach and author, and I want to help you reach your goals by teaching you how to step outside of those fear-based mindsets and into your powerful, loving self. Let's get started. Y'all, I am sitting here at a county park in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. And it is so beautiful and so serene. I wish you could see this. The trees are just this perfect canopy, allowing the sunlight to filter through and kind of sparkle down onto the ground. And Spanish moss and the palmettos and the saw palmettos, if you're familiar with those guys. Anyway, it's beautiful. It's lush. It's green. I love this time of the year. I'm in my best energy, and I'm excited about today's episode. In all of the time that I've been doing this work, the majority of two factors come up in discussion with my clients, and it's either surrounding money or relationships, sex. So it's either money or sex. And more often than not, the conversations that I've had with my clients, particularly my hetero female clients, are how to break the attachment to a toxic person. And I'm going to get into that with you today because one, I think that it's timely, and two, I've been there. I know what it's like to be attached to an unhealthy person, a person who is in dire need of their own spiritual healing, their own emotional growth. But the thing is that when we ourselves are in need of healing, that is exactly what we draw into our space. We can only draw in like energy. It's crazy. I know, it's crazy. If you look back in your history, in your relationship history, especially if you're somebody like me who's been in a few relationships, you can look at the trends. You can see how the energetic, I guess the space that person you were with at the time mirrors your own. And you can see and reflect on who you are now and whether or not you would connect with that person now. Honestly, my opinion, professional opinion, that's why relationships falter, is because one person grows faster and heals faster than the partner. They grow past it. They get tired of the other person's lack of self-awareness, and they get frustrated and they lose the connection. They lose the ability to have the conversations, and a lot of times they lose respect. So a lot of people, we outgrow each other in these relationships. So that's why communication is key. But let's get into it. Let's get into the discussion of what to do when you are attached to an unavailable person. Has this ever happened to you? Have you ever fallen head over heels madly in love with someone only to find out that that person did not feel the same toward you, and or they love bombed you into believing that they did in order to get access to your time, your energy, your body, your emotional investment and labor, so that you coming into their space makes their life easier? You ever had that happen? I have. In fact, it's happened to me a few times. I know one, I'm going to get really transparent here with you, okay? And I think that, that's what I do here. And I've talked with people after I share these episodes, and they're like, Alma, that sounds exactly like what I went through. So if this is you, I'm sharing some personal stuff here in the hopes that it's helpful for you. So I am divorced, and I'm not discussing my relationship with my ex-husband. That's not what this is about. This is about, it was a situationship. It was a situationship that occurred, that this individual showed up in my life, and it was just the perfect timing. And this was this is a few years ago, 2021, I believe it was. Beautiful, beautiful gentleman, perfect gentleman, attractive. We had great chemistry. We had great conversations, very intelligent. And he showed up and he started saying and doing all the things that made me feel safe. And I immediately grew attached. I saw him as a potential partner. I thought, gosh, I never thought I would get married again. But this guy had me thinking that we might actually get married. And lo and behold, yeah, you know where this is going. Lo and behold, you know, he lets me know that he's just not sure about it, and that everything that was discussed between us was, you know, something that he didn't want to create an attachment for me. He wasn't trying to get me to feel attached to him, but he was unable to commit. And he didn't really do anything wrong except for lead me on. And it was a difficult situation for me to get out of. And it created an enormous amount of distress for me that I projected blame upon him. Now, he was no angel, and he certainly did manipulate and mislead me. However, had I been in a healed space, had I been self-aware, and had I not been so ready and willing to abandon myself for the sake of a relationship, none of that would have happened. So it's not really his fault at all. It was because I was not aware that I was still deeply wounded, and I was still very much in need of taking this healing journey for myself. And I share that with you because I before I get into all of this, I want you to know that I am intimately familiar with what you're going through. And it is some of the most difficult emotional pain to go through to try to detach yourself from someone that you're attached to who is not showing up for you. Now, before I get into all of this, because I'm going to give you 3 main ways to detach. But before I get into that, I want you to understand something about that pain that you experience in these connections with these unavailable, dismissive, avoidant people. This is a repeat of your childhood. Yeah, hear me out. Listen to it. I'm going to say it again. This is a repeat of your childhood. That's why it hurts so deeply. If you did not carry a deep childhood wound of abandonment, perhaps, this situation that you're currently in, that you're attached to, would not hold so much power over you. You know, have you ever heard that, you know, knowledge is power, understanding is power, clarity is power? Being able to sort of decipher and maneuver through the situation logically is powerful. You have to really understand what you're up against, and you have to understand how your emotions are playing a huge role in all of this. You know, it didn't happen until probably, maybe the last year and a half or so ago, where it dawned on me as a, you know, midlife divorced woman, that, you know, I'm kind of, you know, relaxed into the space of being an independent person and not worried so much about partnership, and instead focusing and investing my energy more on me and healing and loving myself appropriately, because there's no point in being in a relationship with someone if you don't do that. That's something I know for a fact. If you are incapable of loving yourself, no one else is going to be able to ever do that for you. And the reason why we connect with these toxic, unavailable people is because they offer up an opportunity for us to rectify our past relationship with caregivers who abandoned us, caregivers who abused us, caregivers who made us feel unworthy. And these people show up reminding us in treatment of us. They make us feel how we felt as broken children. And so there comes this opportunity to say, well, if I can just win them back, if I can get this person to connect with me, then that means all my pain goes away. And it's very dysfunctional, and it's codependent. It's you give someone else all your power away and all control over your emotional health and your livelihood, and you allow someone else to determine what your worth is. So a lot of people in these, you know, in this sort of this vacuum of attachment, they don't know how to see their way out of it because they don't know themselves first, you see. So there are these are Alma's 3 ways to detach from an unhealthy attachment. An unhealthy, avoidant, dismissive, unavailable person. Number 1, understand what the attachment means for you. Specifically, what it means for you. That means you have to sit with yourself and you have to do the forensics. You have to sit down and take apart all the pieces of the connection and the attachment and ask yourself the question, why do I want this person so badly? Now, a lot of times it's hard to get to the undercurrent or the subconscious connection there. But let me give you a clue. For a lot of us, it's about winning. You ever think about that? It's about winning. And what does winning mean? Winning means you're in control. Winning means you're not a victim. Winning means you're no longer abandoned. Is that what this current situation that you're in represents for you? Do you really like that person? Do you like who they are? Do you like how they show up in other relationships? Do you like how maybe they have children of their own? Do you like how they take care of their children? Do you like how they are financially, fiscally responsible? Are they a person of integrity? Or do they just show up and tell you nice things and say nice things and get you hooked, and maybe you have a sexual chemistry with this person that makes you feel complete and whole, if only in a short amount of time? Which is it? Is it just about winning? See, you have to understand the nuance of the specific connection. Now, for me, in this one particular instance where I really got my heart broke, and I can see it very plainly now why it happened, was because this person offered up an opportunity to create safety where I could look at some of my old wounds that I had never really looked at before in my life, the things that I carried from my childhood into my adulthood, from being raised by a narcissistic father, that his behavior and treatment of me helped me to understand the areas in myself that I needed to pay attention to that I didn't even realize were there. And, I'm in my late 40s at this time. And so I misunderstood that as connection and chemistry and investment. But he wasn't really a bad person. He was just, taking what was offered. I was allowing him to, have my time and my energy and my investment. I was giving that to him. I was allowing him to have access to that. And he said some things and I became attached. And then I realized that I just needed to win. And it's a remarkable space to be in, to sit here now and to look at that with discernment and to understand myself so much better that, granted, as painful as it was to go through, that I would never want to give up the lesson and the knowledge and the wisdom that I have today in order to share this with you. So understand, number 1, understand what the attachment means for you. When you think about it, what is it? If you were to be in a relationship with the person that you're attached to, what does it mean? Does it mean you've won? Does it mean that all your pain goes away because when you're around this person, you feel comfortable in giving away your power and that you're hopeful that this person will actually make you feel better about yourself and take care of all of your problems so that you don't have to worry anymore? I think a lot of women fall into that trap. It is what it is. And I think whether or not we're capable of actually admitting that, I think a lot of women give their power away to the wrong men and then become resentful of those men when those men can't show up. It's not the man's fault. If you select a person to connect with and they don't show up for you the way that you want them to, it's not their fault. You can't build a sandcastle and be angry that you can't move your furniture into it. It's just a sandcastle. It's not a home. It's not a house. It's not worthy of investing in because it's not going to stay. But you want it to stay. And so you get angry at them for not being what you want them to be. That's not fair. It's not fair to you because you abandon yourself when you do that. Understand what the attachment means. Number 2, I want you to recognize it's a fantasy. It's a fantasy. If this person that you're attached to were actually available and connected and were willing to invest in a real healthy relationship with you, then you would be partnered with this person. But you're not partnered with this person because there's breakdown in maturity, there's breakdown in intelligence perhaps, there's breakdown in personal accountability and respect for self. There's a lot of breakdown there. And you know, the person that you're attached to is a fantasy. You've created in your mind an ideal aspect of this person who looks just like this person in real life, but they don't really exist, do they? So you're actually attached to what you want them to be as opposed to who they really are. And again, like I was saying, it's not fair to them. You know, we have to hold ourselves accountable, and we have to be more responsible with who we allow access to us. We have to use discernment in getting to know people and recognizing what we will and will not condone and tolerate when it comes to getting to know someone. We have to understand ourselves before we can ever try to understand someone else. And if you don't know what you want and what your barriers are, what your personal values are, what your do's and don'ts are, then anything goes. And that's how we end up in the rabbit hole of dysfunction in these relationships, is because you get connected with someone simply because they make you feel good, not because you used any sort of logical discernment to ask certain questions to determine whether or not this person is suitable for healthy partnership. And I think a lot of us, myself included, I'm absolutely including myself in this, most of us, we fail ourselves in doing so. And I want to just call attention to this because, you know what? It's like opening up the windows and letting in the sunshine and looking at all the seedy underbelly and the dark shadows of our heart and our pain and our trauma to really get at the root of what the problem is. And the problem is us. When we get into these attachments to begin with, the problem is us. A healthy person is not going to get attached to an unhealthy partner because a healthy person is going to put their needs first. You see, a healthy person is going to absolutely refuse to abandon themselves for the sake of being in a relationship with this person. A healthy person knows their self-worth. A healthy person loves themselves first before they will ever tolerate or condone anything less than how they treat themselves. Boundaries. A healthy person will not allow someone to violate their boundaries, will not allow someone to come in and disrespect them. So all of this is rooted in the self. So it's a fantasy that we create, that we become attached to, and then it all goes downhill from there because we expect this person to fulfill this fantasy that heals all of our wounds. And when this person doesn't measure up, we project blame upon them. And that never goes anywhere. It never works out. So, I mean, sounds creepy, but what's your fantasy? What's your fantasy? Who's this person that you're attached to, and what do you fantasize about with them? That's an emotional aspect here. And then ask yourself logically, how much of that fantasy makes sense? I mean, have you bothered to look up whether or not this person is, I know this is going to sound crazy, have you ever checked this person out on sex offender registry? I've had so many clients show up and be so upset that they found out that they were dating somebody that was on the sex offender registry. True story. And then I ask them, I'm like, well, did you ever think to do a background check before you started dating this person seriously? And then I always get like the deer in the headlight look. Like, oh, I didn't think about that. I'm telling you, ladies, I'm talking to you specifically. You need to do some due diligence before you get connected with some of these people, because they're not going to volunteer that information. They're not. They're going to see how far they can get with you because they know once you find out about their background, you're out of there. So this is on you to do that due diligence until trust can be earned. Trust but verify. You've ever heard of that? Trust but verify. Do your history. Do your homework. Investigate. Find out who it is that you're actually spending time with. And I've also had people say, well, I don't really think that's ethical, Alma. Why not? A job does it. You think a job is going to hire you without doing a background check? Do a background check. Don't play around with your energy, and especially if you have kids. What? Are you joking? You have children, especially minors living at home, and you're dating? You at least owe it to them to do a background check on the person that you're potentially going to be spending time with and connecting with before anything else transpires. I absolutely encourage that. This is your life. This is absolutely important. And as much as we would like to imagine that there are good people out there are people out there that will do anything and everything just to see how far they can get. Just to see what they can get from you, because they are so broken, they are so unhealed that they will do anything and everything just simply to try and get into your bedroom, try to have access to your time, your energy, your labor, your money even. But do all of your due diligence and prevent the fantasy from occurring. Know who it is you're dealing with. Strip away all of the fantasy and look at it logically. Is this really somebody that I would trust to be around my kids? These are some real hard questions that a lot of people don't want to really narrow down and pay attention to. But how many sleepless nights crying and being upset, losing sleep, worrying, wondering why you weren't good enough is it going to take for you to realize that you are the one that gets to make all of these decisions. You're the one that gets to choose and decide who you spend your time with, who you eventually will partner with. That's so powerful. Take your power back. That's all I'm saying. And take nothing personally. None of this. If a person does not want to be in a relationship and you're attached to a situationship, somebody who is, maybe they're still married and you're, they're separated or whatever, you got to have standards. I asked, there was a gentleman on Facebook just the other day. I don't know if he listens to my podcast or not, but if he does, shout out to you. But he always, would send me messages, really sweet, nice messages. And I just noticed that he would always comment on my stories and my posts, but he would never engage any further. And I asked him very directly, I said, are you in a partnership with someone? Are you in a relationship with someone? Are you married or partnered with anyone? And I wasn't saying that to hit on him. I was saying that to clarify, because he's, putting hearts on everything and sending these love this mess. It was inappropriate for somebody to do if they were married or in a relationship. And his answer to me was this: well, it's really complicated. I'd really love to talk to you about that sometime. Blocked. I blocked him. That's a yes or no question. Are you or are you not in a relationship? Are you or are you not partnered or married with someone else? Yes or no? It's as simple as that. And for me, in my value systems and where I'm at and how careful of a steward of my time that I am, I don't play around with that energy. And he seemed like a nice enough man, but my suspicions were correct. So he's blocked. He couldn't answer my question directly. I don't need all that energy over here. Ladies, we got to do a better job. We got to do a better job filtering. I know. This is intended to protect you from going down this painful path of getting attached to the wrong person and creating these fantasies to begin with. Lastly, remove all the emotion and assess the situation logically. Do you really think that you want to spend the rest of your life fighting to prove your worth to somebody who's not showing up for you? I honestly cannot think of a more awful way to spend my time, is trying to get someone to like me, to value me, to invest in me, to connect with me. And yes, I've done it. But those days are over. I have seen the light. Hallelujah. And I share that with you, and it's nonsense. And every bit of it is the direct result of my own inability to stand in my space of my power and my boundaries and to say, you know what? I'm worth more. I deserve it all. I deserve everything. I deserve the investment. I deserve the time. I deserve everything that I want to keep me feeling connected, deeply connected. I never want to sacrifice the peace that I've created as an independent single woman just for the sake of being in a relationship. It'll never happen. It'll never happen. And if I were to meet somebody and it goes well and I get connected, and then, over time, if I start to notice that there's inconsistencies there, then I will just chalk it up to time well spent, and then I will keep it moving. I will not stay in a connection with someone just because I made the initial investment. Absolutely not. My life, my time, my energy is worth way more than to deal with the inconsistent nature of somebody who has grown tired of me. If you're tired of me, you deserve to be single too. That's the way I see it. So when you look at attachments, when you look at the rumination of it all, the fact that this person comes into your mind throughout your day, it's not because you love them. It's not. It's because you're bored. It's because it excites you. It's because you get a little bit of a dopamine hit from it. Think about it. A lot of times these attachments are very toxic and unhealthy because they create dopamine. We get excited because we're used to the chaos of it. It's getting connected to a healthy partner that scares us because it's calm. Did you ever think about that? The love bombing, you've heard of love bombing that goes on in these connections. Well, he used to do this and he used to say that. Well, yeah, that's love bombing. That's the same thing that happens when a drug dealer will give you your first hit for free because they got to get you attached and they got to get you hooked somehow. And then you're like, oh man, that was good. I need more of that. Then after that, the drug dealer, what happens? They're not giving it to you for free anymore. They make you work for it. It's the same damn thing. So save yourself the heartache. Go look in the mirror and know what your worth is, because the cure to detaching from an unhealthy, unavailable partner, an unhealthy attachment, is knowing your self-worth. Understand what the attachment means for you. Recognize the fantasy. And 3, remove emotion and assess the situation logically. Just look at the whole span of it and tell yourself the truth. Don't lie to yourself. Don't be delusional. Don't pull back into that whole fantasy. But is this, what? There's a difference between people who make mistakes and people who are just not right for you. There's a difference. And if you pay attention to your intuition, your higher consciousness, that decision will make itself for you. If you pay attention to it, you'll know what to do in your gut if you can tune into that. Is this the way that you deserve to be loved? That's the main question. Is this the way you deserve to be loved? And if you say yes, well, then you got bigger issues, sweetheart, because then you've got a self-worth issue that needs to be attacked. Because nobody deserves to be half loved. Nobody does. Ways to cure this and to sort of help move away from the detachment. Be intentional in your self-care routine, especially if you have questionable self-worth, which guys too. Let's be honest here. A lot of us struggle with self-worth. I love me. I'm not perfect, but damn it, I'm awesome. I think you're awesome too. So tell yourself, be intentional with your self-care. Be intentional with how you're feeding your body, what you are ingesting, how you're treating your body, how you're spending your time. Honor yourself, your energy, your body. Use discernment on who has access to you. Not everybody should be able to access your time. Not everybody should be able to access your body, your energy. We teach people how to treat us by what we condone, by what we tolerate, and by what we don't. Respect yourself and demand respectful treatment from others. Nobody will ever treat you better than you treat yourself. So the cure to detachment is loving yourself fully, knowing what you're worth, and standing on that. Standing on that, enforcing those boundaries, loving yourself fully, taking care of yourself, decentering relationships, being present, getting to know yourself. You deserve better. All right. This has been a Lee Bird Media production. Don't forget to like, share, follow, and subscribe. Thanks for listening.